Subscribe to this podcast to get exclusive access to the after show Shooting the Breeze. Welcome to Cool Explorations. I'm your host, Tony Peters. Today we're going to be speaking with Rick DellaRatta of Jazz for Peace, and he's going to be talking to us a little bit about what they've been doing in Africa since our last discussion, and about some work that they're doing in North America. Hello and welcome back. I'm your host, Tony Peters. Today we are blessed to have Rick DellaRatta from Jazz for Peace returning to give us a bit of an update on what they've been doing. And he's just going to start with a bit of a melody piece that he's composed, and he's going to play that for us. So why don't you go ahead, Rick?
Okay. Just to let you know, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of recite the Jazz for Peace poem, because I know we didn't get to do that last time, with music that I'm going to improvise underneath that. Then I'm going to continue a free improvisation, and that's kind of something I've been doing on all the podcasts. It's called Free JA, and then that's going to lead into an old standard, they call them chestnuts from the old era song that Frank Sinatra and others recorded, called If I Had You. I hear jazz for peace coming through the trees, and in my heart it fills me like a celebration. I see the light, and I want to follow. Inspired by the past contributions of those that came before, and laid the groundwork for us to build on. This universal language is a gift for all mankind. When we speak it, people are enlightened by the creativity and artistry. It stands for peace and love and humanity, an intelligence that leads to reaching potential we have in our soul. Total conscience and see that the gift of giving is our greatest privilege. I hear jazz for peace. at your renown. There is nothing I couldn't do if I had
Thank you for that. Why don't you start off by reminding us a little bit about what Jazz for Peace is and what you do with Jazz for Peace?
Okay, well, Jazz for Peace is an organization that was founded on the day of 9/11 with a poem that I wrote watching the events of 9/11 from a rooftop of where I was living at the time, which was less than a quarter of a mile away from the World Trade Center. The words that came out are words that I recited just now. And basically, I decided on that day that maybe instead of talking the talk like I had been doing and like everybody else around me seems to be doing or seemed to be doing, that maybe I would walk the walk and try to live up to those words, try to spread that message. And that trying to live up to those words led to three things. One was an instrument donation program for children that has donated instruments to children all over the world, starting with all over the country. Secondly was an educational series that has brought music into many schools for the first time and enhanced other music programs that already had them. And the third thing, which by far the biggest of all, which is a benefit concert series that has raised funds, publicity and awareness, sponsors, new and prestigious supporters, and all kinds of other important things that are part of what we call an empowerment tree on our quest to empower and enlighten. And it's done this for over 900. Our classically we say 850, over 850 of the world's most outstanding causes. The most recent being just a few weeks ago, where we just got back from, which was Abuja, Nigeria.
Yeah, so why don't you tell us a little bit more about this, about your work in Africa that you've been doing since our last podcast that we had done together?
Well, this was shockingly to most people, because most people are just finding out about Jazz for Peace for the first time. And they used to be shocked that they didn't already know about it. Now people are kind of woken up to the fact that you can't expect your media that is really paid for by large multinational corporations to deliver a message that is beneficial to them and their interests. The selling of products and commercials and all of that stuff. It's an industry to tell you everything. There's so much, once you realize that, it's shocking how much you don't know. In fact, I feel like the smarter I am is the more I realize how stupid I am. So the more I realize that, the more smarter I feel like I'm finally being. The idea that you don't know about Jazz for Peace shouldn't be shocking. That's probably number one. But what might be shocking once you do find out about us is that this was it's shocking to me, actually. I never thought I would be telling you this. This was our 9th trip to Africa, starting with Rwanda in 2009. And it's just continued on. Numerous trips to Kenya, which was the second place we went to. We've also been to Uganda and Ghana. But this was our first time to Nigeria, and they're already talking to us about a second time because of the excitement and the momentum. That's why I did share with you some of that information, videos, etc. You'll be able to watch, on your when you have a free moment. Um, but it's uh, that happens after often after events. The people are already, because you get that momentum and you've had a taste of what it's all about. You finally really know what Jazz for Peace is about once you've experienced an actual Jazz for Peace event. Yesterday, I had to tell someone this in Italy who loves Jazz for Peace. He's actually given awards to Jazz for Peace. And somehow he ran into someone in Italy that knew me from, or knew of me from time that he had lived in Boston. And they sent me a voicemail. And I sent a message back. I said, you tell that person to tell you how important it would be for you to actually experience Jazz for Peace. And I'm hoping the person who sent this little voice message will try to explain, even though he hasn't experienced Jazz for Peace, he knows so much about, the art form of jazz himself. This person, I could tell from the message he had left me. But anyway, it's just one of those things where, one good thing leads to another. And I just find like this kind of cascade of goodness on this side of the world. Whereas when I venture into these other areas, it seems like one bad thing is leading to another bad thing, and I'm trying to, get off of that train and try to stay on these trains where I find one good thing leading to another. That's just, it's obviously that's where you want to be in terms of help your spirit being enriched and then giving you the opportunity to therefore do that for others.
Yeah, which is like you say, what I find with the news and the media, it's such a negative ball of negativity, just constant. And that's why on Twitter I only post my videos and stuff, and then I don't do anything else on Twitter. I don't even scroll or anything because it's just so negative, and everything is being thrown at us is negative.
And part of the reason has been revealed just in the last couple months, because I guess they had to interview, Facebook and some of these people and workers from there, and they just admitted. They said, "Listen, here's our situation. We need clicks in order to sell our advertising revenue. There has to be people coming to our, and this goes with the news. Look, if people need to be watching it." And they get these, statistics. You know what? If we shock the hell out of somebody with, some urgent or an emergency or unfortunately bad news,
Yeah,
they get views and they get people to watch them, and that makes their advertisers happy because the advertisers are trying to reach them to sell their product. And the public watching TV is not cognizant of this, so they don't really know that they are playing a role in this by the fact that they are attracted to this shock value and this kind of bad news, or sometimes making news even worse than it is, to get you to pay attention to it.
yeah, and so much of it is just dishonesty too, to just like you said, make it seem worse than it is, just so that we can scare people and get them to, like you say, click. So clickbait.
Clickbait, yeah.
Yeah, and
And
we
it's been going on for ages. It's just, I think now people are just starting to wake up to the fact that they've been taking these, they just hadn't been cognizant of it. And therefore, when you're not cognizant of something, you can easily become an enabler of it yourself,
yeah, yeah, and the news used to give you happy puff pieces here and there, and now you don't see those anymore at all. And it's just like we need to get out of that cycle. It's a cycle we need to break, so that we can have, instead of hate being spread everywhere, we can have love and understanding again, because there's no understanding anybody who has an opposing view or anything anymore. So I'm like, yeah, we need to get back to discussions and actually listening to what other people have to say.
Right, and hence you're an example. I mean, you're saying, "Hey, I'm gonna put out some positive news myself and see if people will, see the difference. See
Yeah,
that, hey, this new I'm gonna give you some news that's gonna hopefully benefit you, rather than something that just kind of takes up your energy, draws your eyeballs onto it, and then hopefully keeps you there long enough for the commercial so they can sell you a product while you're in front of them."
exactly. And I have no ads on my stuff, and I'm actually quite pleased that I have no ads on any of my stuff, because I no, nobody owns me.
Right, exactly. And it would be nice if there was, an ad that would actually be of value, you know what I mean? But the ads are so deceiving and tricking. I mean, what's really started getting confusing to me, because I really didn't understand the deal, but I would see an ad like back when there were TV sets, and I just remembered at the end of the ad that fast talking voice saying all of the things that could happen to you from taking that product, to protect them from liability. And I'm like, did you? And they're talking so fast. I'm like, did you just say like liver damage? You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah,
like what
could
kind of an ad
could
is
cause heart
that?
attacks. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
right. What kind of a what? And you want me to take this thing? I don't know. It just was hilarious.
Yeah, and that's why when I talk to my doctor about medications and stuff, I'm like, I kind of want to know what the side effects are going to be. Because if there's negative side effects, I usually end up with one of them. So I kind of want to know what I'm in for.
Right. The scary thing that I see a lot, because there are so many interesting podcasts nowadays, you know what I mean? As you know, you're part of the movement. But it seems like every time they interview someone who went through an opioid problem, it all started with a prescription from a doctor, and like, don't these doctors know that, what they're, don't these doctors know the risk that they're putting these people under? And then, of course, you have these investigations that have turned up with doctors being rewarded by
Yeah,
prescribing a lot. Well, I mean, if you're being rewarded for prescribing, you're basically being rewarded for creating an addict.
yeah,
Create an addict, bonus for creating an addict. And the thing is, it's so predictable because they get all the pills they can after off of you once they get hooked, and then when you cut them off, now they go to the street, and it's just again, it's what I was saying right at the beginning. It's one bad thing that leads to another bad thing that leads to another bad thing. It's like this trail of bad, and this other thing that I found was just a trail of good, one good thing leading to another. So it's we've got to give ourselves these choices.
yeah. Which is what you've been doing with Jazz for Peace, and you've been doing work in Africa, and you've also been doing some work in North America. Do you want to tell us a little bit about some of the work you do in North America with Jazz for Peace?
Sure. That's wow. There is probably too many things I don't know even know where I would start, because the way back, we've been in Africa 9 times, but I would say, oh my goodness, more than half of our events have been in, the United States for one. We have done some events in Canada. We've done some events in Mexico. But I mean, in terms of this whole region, this side of the world, I think one thing that stood out a lot. California would count as North America, right?
Yep.
Okay. Um, One thing that stood out a lot that I've talked about a lot was, and I had to talk about it recently because there was a podcast I was on that wanted to do a written thing. They wanted to have something and do another release in writing, and they sent me questions. And one of them was like kind of an aha moment. I think that was an aha moment. And this was from an event. We had so many events in California. There have been a lot in that state, and even that region. Seattle's had a lot of events. But this was one where I had to flying all the way over now to freaking LA from New York. It's a long flight, as you know. And I'm carrying an instrument because it's an instrument donation thing. I'm bringing that, lugging that instrument onto the giant saxophone in my carry-on, and I'm just going through everything that I have to go through. And it's to address bullying in the schools. And it's a woman, and she had this small organization, and she had started it because her son had been bullied and she had nowhere to turn. And it was a horrific situation that her son went through, that traumatized, and this, that, and the other. And so she started the organization herself. So here we are trying to help this woman, and I was doing all that I could. I mean, I'm doing everything I can, like we do. We're doing like we do the same thing, the empowerment tree, the whole 9 yards. I go out there. Now it's all the way. It's not down the street. It's all the way in California. I bring the instrument, I do this, I do that. We play the show. I use some great musicians. you probably don't know names of jazz musicians, but if anyone ends up watching your podcast who knows jazz, they'll remember the name Freddie Hubbard. Freddie Hubbard was this great trumpet player, like one of the all-time greats of jazz, had jazz history on the trumpet, and he had spent a lot of time in LA and on the West Coast, LA specifically, but on the West Coast. And of course, so LA has all these musicians that played with Freddie Hubbard. You know, there's always like, they have an asterisk next to their name, you know. And I think I had like 3 musicians that all had performed on these Freddie Hubbard records, you know. So anyway, I got this great band. I got this, I got that, I got everything I could do. And I just felt like, you know, man, I don't know if this, you know, I don't know, all this work and maybe this isn't really, you know, I don't know if I'm really able to do everything I want to do for this woman and her organization. You know, I was worried that maybe I'm coming up short for the effort that we're putting in. I don't know if this is worth, you know what I mean? I don't know if I'm able to, you know, like I'm doubting the whole thing, you know what I mean? Mainly because it was so much work. I mean, if all I had to do was lift a pinky finger, it'd be different, you know? And I get a letter from her. You don't know what this letter could say. It could say anything. You can write to anything to us. We are very all about honesty. Even when you start with us, it's all about honesty. You send a comment to Jazz for Peace, which, as you know, starts the process going. We get this letter, and the letter, we have it on our website. I don't have it here to read verbatim, but basically the letter is talking mostly about her son. And I don't even know if it came quickly. It might have come, you know, down the road. I can't even remember. But we get a letter from her, and the letter's talking about her son, and it's talking about how her son is a changed man because he just couldn't believe that, you know, in his mind, a famous person would come all the way out there from New York, you know what I mean? And just put on a concert for him to address all that he's been through and make sure it doesn't happen to other kids and all this stuff about his son and what his son was feeling and all that stuff. Like, I'm worried that we didn't get enough sponsors for her organization. Did we get enough? Did we help? Did we raise enough funds? Did we raise enough? But wait a minute, what about the kid? Right? The kid who had been bullied, he needs help more than anybody. You know, he's been traumatized. And the fact that it changed the kid, that was a better result than I could have possibly imagined. There, you can't, that's a home run, you know. So in other words, I went from thinking I bunted to first base at best, you know what I mean, to realizing I probably hit a grand slam home run because nothing had helped this kid that they were able to come up with, which is why she even started this thing. And now she's saying I helped the kid. You know what I mean? So now it would have been worth, you know what? Put 3 more hours on the flight. Make the, you know, put 10 more pounds on that saxophone. You know what I mean? You make it even 10 times harder, I'll do it. You know, if it meant that much to the kid. So that was kind of an aha moment for me. You know, how stupid am I, you know, thinking that, you know what I mean, that this is the most important thing. The actual kid is way more important than anything. So anyway, that's just one example. But if you were to look around me, you would see events, posters from events, just all over this whole area is covered. It's the wallpaper. The wallpaper is posters from events. So I mean, you could literally point, what was that one? What was that one? What was that one? And so most of them, as you know, are probably from America. Even the ones behind me, though, aren't.
I see one from Pakistan behind you.
Behind me is Rwanda, Africa, the first trip, Mexico, and Pakistan. But anyway, there's so many around here that they're, you know, flyers from all kinds of events. But that's one example. You could you could say a city, state, and a town and get another story just as wild.
Yeah, which is really cool. And you do a lot of work with children as well with your instrument program. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that program?
Well, basically, what happened was I had this idea for the United Nations, and I had told my manager at the time, and my understanding of it is I think she just put in a press release that one of the things I was going to do with Jazz for Peace was an instrument donation program for children. Because I don't really remember, you know, having this grand idea, you know what I mean? And I almost think she might have just thrown that in. I don't know. And people started talking about it. Hey, what is this instrument? And all of a sudden, it seemed to just have this little thing where it caught people's eyes and caught people's attention and affected people. And I was like, yeah, you can donate an instrument to us, and if you do, we'll store it and we'll take it to our events and donate an instrument to a child at every single event or whatever. You know what I mean? And it kind of just started that way. People would contact us like, "Yeah, I want to donate." Well, man, we can't store a piano. But what happened was, here's what happened. That thing was going, it was ongoing, and we started to, people wanted to, hey, take a picture of, let's take a picture for it, and we'd take a picture. Let's put up another site where people can go and look at all the pictures from the events. So another person after that, we had Jazz for Peace had a very important volunteer. She's still with us to this day, Deborah. And she had the idea of I guess she checked and saw that instrument donation was not taken. So we ended up with the what do they call that? Whatever they call that, the name. You know what I mean?
The URL.
The what? The URL. We ended up
Yeah.
with the URL. So we are instrumentdonation.com. So if you go to instrumentdonation.com, which people do, they're looking to donate something and they just happen to find themselves on that, and you contact that, you end up with us. That ends up contacting Jazz for Peace. So again, we started with the situation that, yeah, send the flute in, we'll donate it, we'll take a picture, we'll show you who we donated it to, blah, blah, blah. We also went to the music union and got a grant to help us transporting instruments and also repairing instruments, because an instrument comes now, you give a broken instrument to a child, there's nothing really worse you can do than give them an instrument. Now they try and they can't even play it, so we'd had to repair the instruments. A lot of them come, they're used in some woman's garage for years or whatever, and it's not, we have to have, somebody's got to fix that thing, so we had to have money to repair it, and we have to transport it and other stuff. So sometimes I have to check in a bag to carry the instrument, whatever it is. But we also get people who call up with a piano. On those situations, we would have to find a donor in that city so that the piano would not move, because you can't move the piano to here, then we'll move it. No. The piano's got to stay right there. We find a donor, and then then the piano gets moved right from that person's house down the street or down to the school or whatever. And we have just facilitated countless amounts of donations. I can't really even say them all, but you can go to instrumentdonation.com and see lots of stuff, lots of it, lots of pictures, especially when we donate at events and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think that's a really great program, because my son, he's starting the trumpet this year, and he already is into guitar and into piano, but we definitely would not have been able to afford to buy him an instrument other than that, because we had already spent money on a keyboard for him, and my daughter, as well. Somebody gave us a kid's guitar, and my wife used to play trumpet, so we were able to pull out her old trumpet, tune it, and then use that rather than having to buy an instrument or rent an instrument you'd have a monthly bill. And I'm like, we already have enough monthly bills. So we were lucky enough that my wife had played it, so we had an instrument for him. But for families like us who didn't have someone play, they wouldn't necessarily be able to afford that. So it's great that they'd be able to get an instrument.
I would not be in the least surprised if the event that I told you about actually has a picture on that website of me, because I'm pretty sure I brought a giant saxophone, whatever, a tenor sax or something, all the way out there. And there's a picture of me with the saxophone and with the, the woman from the school and all that stuff.
Yeah, and
that specific event.
I think that is absolutely fantastic. How do you go about finding sponsors for these events, and backers for all these events?
Well, here's one thing I'm so glad to bring up on your show, because you had even asked us a question, what we do things that are a little different than what you would think, you know what I mean, than what somebody would think. For example, I know, when we're working with you, which we still are, hopefully to bring at some point or other to help somebody out in Saskatchewan, since Jazz for Peace has never been there, and it
Yeah.
would be exciting. I'd love for Saskatchewan to feel the energy and excitement that Abuja feels right now. You know what I mean, in Nigeria, because we get some of the pictures that I sent you just came yesterday, because there's still I still feel that energy from all the way wherever the heck how many thousands of miles away that is. I'm feeling energy from there, positive energy still from that event. And I'd love for Saskatchewan to feel that, since we have this connection. And I remember you were asking, so once people give the comments, now don't you get the venue, and when you look at the pictures and video in Abuja, you'll see that we had a very impressive venue. And one thing we definitely were not able to do was just go over there and show them a bunch of comments. They're not going to give you a venue with a bunch of comments. You know what I mean? They're not going to do that, because they don't. For as far as they're concerned, I mean, you could have just made them up. That could be anything. That's nothing. You know what I mean? What we do is, first of all, the person makes a comment to Jazz for Peace. The person who is interested in Jazz for Peace coming to their town or city or whatever, they send a comment to us by email based on their review. It could be even, hey man, I watched Tony's podcast. This would be so great if this could come to our blah, blah, blah and help this cause. Could be something simple as that, really, that simple. And then that's a comment. Now that represents a seedling, as I've talked about before, a little seedling. And as we all know, trees drop thousands of seedlings, and with the hopes that one or two of them will become a tree. This is the same thing. This is a seedling. Now we want to hope that that seedling becomes one of the ones that eventually becomes a tree. So how do we grow that into a tree? Well, we ask that person, hey, we're going to create a little page here. You look at it. Let's go back and forth with this and get it to just how you like it. And it's going to have your comment in it. And it's going to tell people a lot of information. One, this is what you think about this organization. What do they think? And it's going to show them, and it's going to say, we want to bring this as part of the 20th anniversary of the United Nations concert, whatever. We want to bring it to our town to help this outstanding cause, on such and such month or whatever down the road, a bunch of possibilities. What do you think? And hopefully they'll read that information. Not only that, but we show that what's in it for them, because VIPs at these events, as you'll see, there's pictures of the VIPs in Abuja and standing in front of them. Actually, what I can't wait for you to see is the pictures of the sponsors. You got to see this. It's a giant wall of sponsors. And here you are asking how you get the sponsors, right?
Yeah.
Look at that. Do you see it?
Yeah, there's a whole bunch there. So I will.
A whole bunch. A wall full, right?
Yeah.
I was shocked myself at how many sponsors this organization was able to obtain. But they were following our model, using our template, and you know what I mean? They were landing them.
Yeah, and that's really cool.
Yeah. So that they show that to those people, and not only those people know all that, but they see what's in it for them as a VIP. What we want to make sure they see is that if they're going to be asked, as sometimes they are, to purchase a VIP ticket in advance to help confirm the event, okay, because that's one way that organizations can get their event confirmed. They know that they're going to get that money back, maybe even more so. You know what I mean? That the money's not just going out, even if it did go out, it'd be for a worthy cause and it'd be great, and they probably do that themselves, for other events. You're actually that's coming back to you in the form of all of the perks and amenities of the VIP guests of honor. So, you know what I mean? It's like, it's an incredible win situation, because they should feel good helping that organization confirm the event. But not only that, the fact that it's going to come back to them in the form of, a VIP meet and greet ceremony that we have for the VIPs on that day. Just the VIPs go to that. So often there are many beverage sponsors. So, if they don't drink alcohol, fine, they're going to get free beverages. If they do, sometimes they get things like wine and champagne, and who knows. Often there's food sponsors, often there's gift sponsors, and just the VIP thing alone often adds up to more than the price of the ticket. Plus preferred seating, and plus don't forget the event. So I mean, there's so much that comes back to them from their help in helping that organization confirm the event, if it's a situation where the organization is going to ask them to do that, which is we have what we call winning event confirmation techniques, and we show them that to help them confirm that event. Now, Tony, guess what? With a confirmed event, now we can approach the venue in a way which the venue will be interested and impressed. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because you show them a bunch of comments, they're like, hey, wait a minute, and plus they can review our program. And the last thing we want is them to come back to us and say, hey, you played at the so-and-so and you gave them a zillion assurances. You showed them VIPs, you showed them this, you showed them, you know what I mean? You're giving us a handful of comments? Well, how come we're getting shafted here? You know what I mean? So, we give these venues feel very good about this event when they come on board. They look at the whole package. That's our hope anyway.
And so they go through that process, sending in comments, getting comments, and then you try and get VIPs. What are your average ticket prices for these events? Just, I know it probably varies based on location, but what on average is
it? Vary based on anything, okay? But here's what it's really all about for us anyway. It's all about the VIPs. It's all about them, because they're angels, these VIPs. You know what I mean? Because they believe in the cause, and that's important. I mean, if you're doing something really good in the world and nobody knows about it and nobody believes in it, that's kind of a bummer, and we need you to have believers. We need you to have people that support you. That's what this is all about, growing that donor base, growing that that base of people that say, hey, I want to see your dream grow and prosper, because it's going to make our community better, it's going to make our world better, whatever your mission is. And so what we want to do is we want to have a price that is comfortable for the VIPs. That's the key. We'd rather have, let's say we're in a third world country, we'd rather have some teeny tiny VIP ticket price, that everyone can afford, and maybe we have 1,000 VIPs, then in, let's say, Hong Kong, where, or you know what I mean, where, you can have a VIP ticket price at 5,000 Hong Kong dollars each, you know what I mean? And, these people, and you have 20 of them, you know what I mean? 20 VIPs, or 10, you know what I mean? Something like that. So it's the right thing for the right circumstance. What's gonna get these VIPs to commit to this event, to review what Jazz for Peace is all about, see what's in it for them. Now, with that in mind, you have to realize a VIP who pays next to nothing is not going to be as impressive when we go after sponsors as a VIP who is, paying a decent ticket price. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because the sponsors are looking at them as people that they want to view their company in, a good form. They want them to sample their products, and they want them to say, hey, this company has really good wine and they're philanthropic. They sponsored the Jazz for Peace event. They're, if I have a choice between two really good wines, I'm going to choose this one because I remember them from that day. That kind of stuff, They're not going to come on board, I mean, they're more interested. Let's put it that way. It's gonna be more interesting to them. The average ticket price or is listed on our material, but it's been that way for many years, was $25. That would be like just a blank, like just for a sample for a ticket price. But we go back a lot of years with that $25 ticket price. So if you want, sometimes we could show people how to confirm an event using a $25 ticket price. We can use that as a template. We use templates for just about everything, and that could be like a template to show you how we can assist you to get this event confirmed, not only at no cost to you, but with funds already raised to you and in your bank account. And that's one of numerous ways you can do it. An organization that has a lot of fundraising experience, they're going to do it. They're going to do it a little different. I mean, they might say, "Hey, we're just going to purchase these tickets off of you now, and sell them at whatever we want to sell them at." But that's not you. That's somebody. That's the Red Cross or somebody who has. They have all this fundraising experience, and then we might be learning from them as we go along. We stay in touch all the way through, and we're hoping they're going to teach us stuff. But with someone who's never had an event before, we know that they're going to be learning from us. That's fine. That's fine too. The key is that at the end, we have this kind of string of positivity that I was alluding to earlier. That's what we're trying to create here.
Yeah. So, thanks for explaining the process for that, because I mean that's really important for people who are trying to, well, like myself, who've been trying to go through that process, but also for people who are looking at the process and considering supporting these things. So thanks for explaining that, and thanks for talking about your different stuff you've been doing since we last talked, because it's exciting to see all these things going on, and how God just kind of puts people in the right place at the right times for these things to happen. Are there any final thoughts you'd like to leave us with before we close off here?
Well, I guess I'd like to just embellish on what you just said, because what's really cool about your cool explorations is the faith-based, what would you say, flavor that you bring to it. So I like the fact that when I say something like things just kind of come their own natural way, I know that you're getting that because of your strong faith.
Yeah.
There's just kind of, sometimes like what we expect to happen is not necessarily, we're putting pressure on ourselves by trying to play God in a sense, and then the other weird thing is not only what we expect to happen is highly doubtful, but it's possible that something better than that can happen.
Yeah.
And so I think that's important to keep that in mind, rather than think it has to happen this way or else. It really doesn't. There's so many ways to have a good outcome. It's it's magical.
Yeah. So thanks again for sharing with us, and for coming on. Feel free to shoot me an email anytime you want to come on again. I really, really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Oh, one thing I should also say, the 10th of September is going to be the 25th performance of this piece called Free JA, which was part of my performance to you today. So we have this little anniversary coming up ourselves.
Oh, cool. Thank you for listening to Cool Explorations. You've just been listening to Rick DellaRatta from Jazz for Peace, as he's been speaking about what they've been doing in North America and in Africa since we last spoke, and how we can get involved with what they're doing. If you want to contact me for any reason, you can do so at tpeters745@gmail.com. Well, I have just been blessed with so many people who are requesting to be on the show, and I'm impressed with how many people want to share their testimonies or what they're doing for the Lord right now. If I haven't got back to you, I promise I will get back to you. I look forward to speaking with each of you and interviewing you, and keep tuning into the show. There's lots of new people that are coming on here, and if you're considering wanting to come on the show, just shoot me an email at tpeters745@gmail.com, and I will get back to you.